Okay, hello everyone. We are going to talk about chapter 3 today, which is the biological risk factors. Okay, so here's our overview for the chapter. This video is going to be looking at the history component. So, if you've taken a crim class before, you might have heard of Cesar Lombroso. He is otherwise known as the father of criminology, and he believed that criminals were born criminals. So it's not something they learned from either modeling or their environment or their circumstances, but they were just born that way. So that would insinuate that we have some biological component to being a criminal. So he had a theory called atavism, and basically he believed that criminals were a biological return to our early or earlier evolutionary forms. And you'll see what I mean when I show you some pictures in just a moment. So if you think back to like cavemen, for example, and how we have evolved from that point until now, that is a good example of what he thought criminals would look like. Not necessarily exactly cavemen, but basically they de-evolved. So their physical appearance was a reflection of this history in evolving. So if you looked more like a caveman, basically, you were likely to be perhaps a criminal. Beyond that, we have that criminals possess some distinct physical features. So you'll see again in the next few slides, maybe larger ears, broader foreheads, wrinkles, or larger incisors on teeth. All these things he believed would differentiate the criminal from the non-criminal. Hopefully, just from listening to this, you gather that this isn't exactly a good theory, but at the time there were some that of course believed it, and there are drawings of his to show just how much he was pushing this theory forward. But yes, later it was rejected. So here's some examples. Again, they have criminals were product of their genetics, so they have different genetics than a non-criminal. So not only return to earlier evolutionary form of humans, but it seems that perhaps we were evolved from animals from these drawings, in his mind anyways. So you don't have to know all of these, but here are some of our ideas on what they would look like. So small head but large face, small sloping forehead, receding hairline, wrinkles, large sinus cavities or bumps on the face, large protruding ears, bumps on the head, particularly in the destructiveness center above the left ear. This will make more sense once we talk about phrenology. Protuberances on the head, in the back of the head, and around the ears. Again, we'll talk about this. High cheekbones. Oops, sorry about that. Bushy eyebrows that meet across the nose. So we've got unibrow as a criminal. Large eye sockets but deep set eyes. Beaked or flat nose. Straw jawline. Small or weak chin. Large incisors or abnormal teeth. Fleshy lips but thin upper lip, thin neck, sloping shoulders but a large chest, long arms, pointy or snubbed fingers or toes, and tattoos. Apparently it's not just what you are born with, but tattoos somehow snuck in there. So here we've got a few of our illustrations from Lombroso, showing some of the physical defects that the author believed to be distinguishing marks of criminals. So take a look and see what you might see from our previous list there, but taken directly from Lombroso's drawings himself. Additionally, we've got the various different mouths and noses and lips and chins that are indicative of criminals. more of our drawings. So we've got Lombroso identifies these criminals as Bragabonds, numbers 1, 2, 4, and 6. Number 5 is a Neapolitan thief. Number 3 is a Calaviglia. I don't know. The assassin who painted his story on his water jug. Sounds interesting. And the boy there with the mirror is protuberances on the head. And then we've got ladies too. Physiology, a Russian female offender. So it's not just males. Okay. Now we are transitioning to phrenology right here. So this is a new theory. The first one was atavism, and now we're at phrenology. Phrenology basically is these busts of heads you might have seen, or the drawings like this as well that show different areas of the skull. Basically, it states that the different areas of the skull are linked to different personality and psychological issues. So this was put forward by Franz Gall, 1758 to 1828. The shape of the skull reveals personality and psychological issues, and we have criminals that are have damaged brains, and so that would lead to aggression. So if you think about it, our brain is beneath our skull, and so our damaged brain pushes on different parts of our skull. So let's see. Above the ear here is destructiveness. So for some reason, if your brain was damaged here, it would push on your skull, and so your skull would have a bump here in the destructiveness area. So that's what it means by you have these protrusions in the skull. It's because of issues in your brain, but they weren't going to cut into your skull, hopefully not in those times, just to see if you're a criminal. So the best way to do it is to have the bumps on your skull. So again, certain spots on the skull signify particular conditions, and so you may have heard this theory in even different psychology classes and other disciplines as well, perhaps, because it put forward that, again, if you have a bump in that area, you had that particular issue. So not just crime related or aggression related, but personality related as well. Okay. I guess I didn't put it on that one, but this theory of phrenology was also later disproven. It is not true that certain areas in the skull signify certain brain dysfunctions or aggressiveness or anything like that. So if you feel your skull and find some bumps, do not worry. They're not signifying just on their own that you have any brain issues. Next, our last early biological theories is our somatotypes, which you also may have had in a psychology class. So in 1949, William Sheldon proposed a relationship between the type of body you have and delinquency. So we're talking about the type of body you have, and there are 3 that he proposed, related to the type and frequency of delinquent behavior that you would do. Okay, so here are 3 different body types. We've got endomorph, mesomorph, and ectomorph. So first we have endomorphs, relaxed, comfortable, extroverted, softies. Mesomorphs, active, assertive, lust for power. And ectomorphs, introverted, overly sensitive, and private. So, which do we think would be most likely to be a criminal? Take a moment, think about it. The mesomorph, right. So, again, we've got somebody that, if we go back this way, is active, assertive and lust for power, this body type is the most likely to engage in that criminal behavior, as opposed to the ectomorph, which is our really thin, or our endomorph, which is our bigger body type. Again, not surprisingly, this theory is not true and was later disproven. So to sum up, across all three of our atavism, our phrenology, and our somatotypes, all are not true today, but give us a good idea of some of our early biological theories that can be helpful in thinking about where we've come from, and then appreciating even more all the things that I'll be showing you in the rest of this chapter.